So you create a Kubernetes service. It gets a virtual IP, but that IP is not real. No network card owns it. No machine is listening to it. So how do the packets headed there actually find the right pod is the question. The thing that makes it work is kube-proxy, and it does the job in a few different ways, and we'll open it up for you today.
Think of a service as a stable front door. Pods can be created, deleted, and replaced, but the service IP stays the same. kube-proxy runs on every node and keeps that front door connected to the current pods. It watches services for the virtual IP and it watches endpoint slices for the real pod IPs. Then it writes the node rules that move packets from the service IP to one of those pods.
So that is kube-proxy, one daemon running on every node. It watches services, it watches endpoint slice, and it turns into actual kernel rules that route real packets to the right pods. The interesting part is how it programs the kernel. That is where the three modes come in.
Pause on this idea for a second. kube-proxy has 3 Linux backends. Each one makes the same service work, but each builds a different path inside the node. iptables builds chains of rules. IPVS builds virtual services and real backend servers. nftables uses newer net filter maps. Your app sees one service. The kernel sees 3 different packet paths.
Let us follow the single packet through iptables mode first. This is what almost every cluster in production kind of runs today. The packet passes through the 3 different iptables chains before it reaches the real pods, and here is what each one does.
Let us slow down one request. You curl the service IP in iptables mode. The packet first matches a rule in KUBE-SERVICES. That rule jumps to a per service chain. The per service chain chooses one pod using probability rules. Then it jumps again into a per endpoint chain. That last chain changes the destination from the service IP to the chosen pod IP. That destination rewrite is called DNAT.
Here is the catch with iptables. The kernel has to scan through the rules one by one to find a match. A few hundred of services is fine, but when it comes to a few thousands, everything changes. And every change to those rules takes the kernel real time to apply. And while that update is in progress, the rules on the node are slightly behind the reality. That is what the wall iptables hit at scale.
IPVS tries to avoid the long rule walk. kube-proxy creates a dummy interface named kube IPVS 0, puts service IPs on it, and creates IPVES virtual services. A virtual service is like a tiny load balancer inside the kernel. When a packet arrives, IPVES does a fast lookup. Its scheduler chooses a real backend server, and the kernel rewrites the packet to that pod.
Here's the thing that not everyone might be aware of. IPVS mode is not actually replacing the iptables. It still uses iptables behind the scenes for things like rewriting source IPs, handling traffic coming from the outside cluster, and a few corner cases. The IPVS kernel module cannot do on its own. So even when you turn on the IPVS mode, the iptables rule is running. They are just smaller and they are not the thing that kernel used to pick a backend pod.
NFTables is the newer net filter interface. The beginner way to think about it is this. Instead of forcing the packet to walk a long list, kube-proxy can put service lookups in maps. The key is the destination IP and port. The value says where the packet should go next. That gives the node a more direct lookup, and kube-proxy can update smaller parts of the rules when the cluster changes.
And here is why NFTable matters. It went stable in Kubernetes 1.33. It is still not the default. iptables hold that spot, but NFTables is now the recommended path for running any cluster with modern Linux kernel. The iptables era is not ending overnight, obviously, but the door to leave is officially open. The real
The timeline matters because stable does not mean default. NFTables mode started as alpha in Kubernetes 129. It moved to beta in 131. It became stable in 133. Stable means you can use it without a feature gate. It does not mean every cluster switches automatically. For compatibility, iptables still remains the upstream default path. Now, here is the live demo version. I created 3 Nginx pods and exposed them with one cluster IP service. The service IP is 10.96.10 for 1. When I curl that service IP from inside the kind node, different pods answer. Then I inspect the node's NAT table. The service IP matches kube services, jumps to a kube service chain, picks an endpoint, and finally dnat rewrites the packet to a real pod IP. For small clusters, iptables is usually good enough. The difference shows up when you have many services and many endpoints. iptables has more rule walking and rule updates can get large. IPVS and neftables avoid the long lookup path. But the practical win with neftables is often update time. When only a small part of service state changes, kube-proxy can send a smaller update to the kernel.
The real surprise with iptables is how slow the lookup is, and it is how long it takes to update the rules. In a large cluster, applying one change can take seconds. It depends on how many service and endpoints you have, what hardware node is running on, the kube-proxy version. And while that update is running, your node is operating slightly stale rules. nftables, by contract, applies the same kind of changes in milliseconds. Order of magnitude is faster. So how do you actually pick a node? For most clusters, the answer is simple. Stay on iptables. It is mature. It is still the upstream default. It handles small to medium workloads fine. If you are running very, very large clusters in the modern day era with the modern Linux kernel 5.2, 5.13 or newer, move to nftables. It is stable now, and do not move to IPVS just because IPVS is deprecated as of 1.35. Stay on iptables unless you have specific IPVS feature that you have already tested or need. So that is kube-proxy. Again, one daemon running on every node, watching services, endpoints, programming the kernel, 3 modes, one job, out of which one is deprecated. It is the most boring sounding component in Kubernetes networking. Very less people talk about that. And it is the one that is actually making the services work. Now you know which mode is running in your cluster and why does it matter. If this helped, like the video, subscribe to Kubesimplify, and let me know in the comment section which proxy mode your production cluster use. Next deep dive, we'll dive into something new in Kubernetes. So keep sharing, keep spreading the love, and thank you so much for watching the video. See you in the next one.